Hello, I'm Luke Wooten, and this is my final project presentation. I decided to remake the voting lab from earlier this summer session for my project. A quick description of my project, since it is Lab 1 but remade for this final project, it takes in an ID number and checks if it is valid or if it's already been used. Then it also takes in a candidate choice and then saves both the ID and candidate choice to two separate CSV files. Now for the demonstration. So with the vote menu, it works by taking an 8-digit integer ID number as well as a selection of one of these two radio buttons, and submitting will save this selection to two different CSV files, one for the total of the votes and one for keeping records of the ID numbers and what those IDs voted for. How this application handles invalid input. Well, first off, if you were to have a valid ID like this, which is 8 digits of integers, and you didn't select, it would have an error message pop up, invalid vote, you must select one candidate. Now if you did that, but used a repeated ID, for example, in our voter records you can see this ID has already been used. If you were to vote with this, it gives you cannot vote twice. As well as now if you had an invalid ID, whether one short or if you had a non-integer character in there, it would give you this error ID where it tells you the ID has to be a certain way. Now, the feedback I received in my meeting was to add docustrings and type hinting. As you can see, I've added docustrings to help document the usage of each function, as well as I've added type hinting to show what are expected parameters and outputs of all the functions. For the knowledge gained in this project, it can mainly be summarized into three groups. The first was I learned more about the different PyQt widgets and their attributes or features or just special things you can do with them in general. The next was how to store different types of data in the same CSV file and how to also read from that same CSV and separate that data into useful ways. And the third was how to properly test programs. This was especially helpful knowledge that I gained because originally when I first started coding my freshman year, I was overusing print statements and pretty much only using print statements. But now that I am able to use PyTest, it's a huge improvement for my ability to troubleshoot efficiently. Now for the challenges. The first one was trying to learn things independently. There are a lot of things in this project I did for the first time, and I had to, on my own, look up documentation, figure out how it would work in my situation, and implement it in a way that actually worked. I overcame this obviously by looking at the documentation and making sure to set enough time to research how to do things. The second thing was understanding Python's built-in functions and libraries to make more efficient code. I am coming from doing a lot of C and Java, so I didn't realize how many useful functions were already built into Python, and that it's much more efficient to use those since they're already there for you and pretty well made. This project really helped me appreciate just creating an application, because both designing the GUI and designing the logic backend, and then also having to make both halves come together into a functioning project, it made me realize how much effort went into everything about it and how it's really important to keep proper coding practices, keeping things in classes, separating, and making things efficient. Thank you for watching my presentation.